Subsequently, I started to get paranoid because around that time, I also started receiving gifts to my home that had no label whatsoever as to where they came from. Not to mention, my husband and I went on a date night one evening, and I set up the nursery camera over my baby crib. And every time I would leave the room, I couldn't see him on the camera. It would like black out. So I would get like upset, and I would show my husband, and he's like, yeah, what's going on? So we would go in there and try to troubleshoot, and everything would be fine. So we left one evening. Our son's godmother was there with our oldest. The baby was asleep. We left for a few hours, and I assessed every few minutes the camera to see what my baby was doing, if he was still asleep, just concerned. But I want to spend time with my husband, and I check the cameras and I can't see him, so I panic and we go home. So the camera thing started to become a thing to me. Why is it that when I leave the room, I can't see my baby on the camera? Why is it that my mother-in-law posted a picture of my baby? Why is it that this lady's calling my office asking for a picture of my baby? Why do people want to see my baby so bad? And why can't I see my baby? Like, what is going on, This led to delusional thoughts. I thought that surely something special is with my baby. Like, I'm receiving gifts from all over the world. All over the world. People are so pressed to see my baby. I don't understand like what's going on. And so I started to get very paranoid, and mama bear instinct started to set in, and I didn't want anyone around my baby. Thankfully, around that time, our children's godmother had went back home to Illinois. My father had left. My mother was out of town. And so it was just me, my husband, and our boys. And I had a lot of time to think, especially late at night when the baby would wake up to nurse. He began cluster feeding very early. And so there were many times where I would get 2-3 hours of sleep at most, kind of, cumulative for a stretch, I should say. And so I wasn't sleeping very well, and I had a lot of time to think. And so my mind just naturally started trying to weave things together. So I thought that cameras were just not to be allowed around my children. And then you fast forward to me doing a newborn and maternity shoot. I took these photos with this company to market for this postpartum wrap banding thing that was recommended by my doula as a new mom. And the photo shoot went very well, but when it came time for me to get the photos, the photographer posted a picture of me and my baby in March, the first week of March for Women's History Month. And when I asked if I could get the actual copy of it, she told me no. She said that I don't have the rights to that image, and that I needed to contact the company that I was modeling for. And I remember like, what? This is a picture of me and my baby, and I can't have the rights to the picture of me and my baby? Like, what are you talking about? Delusion, paranoia, anxiety ensued, and I was livid. I wrote a message that was a little rude, actually, because I'm like, what is going on? They eventually gave me the images, but it was just the idea that someone could post a picture of you and your child and tell you that they can't give you those pictures because you don't own the rights to them. Like, I felt out of control. And so I started to feel out of control. Around this time, my oldest son was telling me about bullying that was happening at school. And so I withdrew him from school. I didn't want people to know where I was. I started to take my location off of my phone all the time. I wouldn't use the GPS. I wouldn't allow certain pictures to be posted at all. I just didn't post pictures. And I gave a whole spiel to my husband as to how we were going to go about posting pictures, and that we would post them days after, weeks after we actually did something, so that people couldn't trace where we were. And that if we wanted to get on the internet, we would have to go to the library because too many people knew where we were and what we were doing at all times. And I felt like I was being surveillanced. The paranoia got so bad that growing up in the 90s, you know how red blinking lights meant something was recording? Or if there was a red light, it meant that it was recording, right? Well, the television, when it's turned off, it had a red light. So when our televisions were off, if I was in front of them, I would be afraid, like literally afraid to talk about my children in front of the television. I would be afraid to share anything about myself personally in front of TV because I thought I was being recorded. I ripped the cameras out of the wall. I started to throw toys away because I thought they had cameras in them. I became obsessed with the idea that I was being recorded and watched every move of the day. I stopped even pumping breast milk because I felt like the machine was keeping track of how often I secreted milk and fed my baby. I stopped logging diapers and sleep times and anything related to my personal information on apps. I stopped doing that. I deleted email addresses. And then I remember seeing the announcement about the metaverse, and I started to think like, whoa, like we are like in this place and somebody's trying to access my identity and they want to be me so bad. What's happening? I remember like feeling so lost in myself. Like, I don't know, am I me? Like, who am I? What happened to me? Where am I? Because when I deleted my social media accounts, I thought I died. And that was just a shell of an existence. It was a strange place to be in mentally. And then I started to lose my memory and I forgot that I was a mom. I forgot that I was a wife. I would see my husband and not recognize him. I would see my children and think they were my siblings. My mind was trying to put pieces together so quickly that one day I had on I had shirts on my boys. One said big brother for my older son, one said little brother for my younger son. And I got them confused. I thought I was me as a little girl. And then my oldest son was my big brother and my little son was my younger brother. And one day when my mother and my husband were driving me to my grandparents' house to separate me from the children so that I can get the help that I needed, they were in the front seat. And you know how as moms we call our spouse daddy to the children, like, go tell daddy come here, or ask daddy if you can go outside. You know, I thought my husband was daddy for real because of that. My mind just didn't make sense of it. It was trying to make sense of it. So he was daddy, my mom was mommy, because she is mommy, right? And then my younger son was my little brother and my older son was my big brother. It doesn't help that they look like them. My actual big brother and my younger brother. But I just remember I was afraid of technology. I was afraid of technology.